You've got your InvisaGig in hand, completely put together, and now you're ready to do some configurations. Let me show you how to get it set up. So grabbing our InvisaGig, we've got it all set up for power. Ethernet's connected to my laptop via direct with an adapter, and this is a 1 gig connection, so it's flashing there showing that it's a data connection to my InvisaGig, to my PC. So what we're going to need to do now is go to our PC, open up a web browser. I always use an incognito or private browser tab, and if we head over to our browser on our PC here, you'll see that I use the incognito window on Chrome, Brave, Safari. Any of the browsers should work. Just make sure that you've got all of your software updated on your system, because sometimes older browsers will cause problems with interfacing with newer technology. On my system here, you'll see that I do not have Wi-Fi connected. We want to make sure that when you're setting up your InvisaGig for the first time, that you're not trying to interface it while you're connected to another router system or a Wi-Fi system that could possibly cause conflicts with interfacing with the InvisaGig. So we want to make sure that we are only connected to it. If you need to, because you don't have an Ethernet connection or an adapter to connect to it, which can be done on laptop, PC, Mac, Linux, even a tablet, or in some cases a phone via USB to Ethernet adapter, you can do this through your router interface, but some routers need special routing rules to be able to access the different subnet that the InvisaGig has at the address of 192.168.225.1. All you need is that IP address. You don't need anything special to get to it, just a web browser. So again, you'll see on my system that I've got my Wi-Fi turned off and it's connected via Ethernet. And if I go to my Ethernet settings on my connector, I show properties. I'll actually turn off my IPv6 on this adapter, and then I'll go into my IPv4 settings and make sure that everything is set up to connect automatically. You want your DHCP settings set to automatic, as well as your DNS server, gateway, anything like that. You want it all set to automatic. You don't want any advanced alternate configurations or anything, just in case you have problems. You can change it all back to your normal way that you have it set up, but while you're first setting up your InvisaGig to eliminate any possible issues of conflict, just make sure that you have it all set up to automatic and click on OK, and we should be good to go. Now mine is already connected. I've got a brand new unit here that's been factory reset as well, just to make sure that there's no settings in it. And we're going to set it up just like you would be right now. So in my browser of the connected device, I'm going to go to https://192.168.225.1. Now I'll note, before doing this setup, my InvisaGig does not have my SIM card in it yet. Whatever SIM card it is that you have, you need to make sure that you don't put it in just yet. You're going to need to set up according to what SIM and plan you have for your setup. I'm going to do a generic setup tutorial so that it applies across all versions of our software, as well as every single SIM card that you may have. If there's anything that's specific to the SIM card, the InvisaGig should already have some settings in there pre-set up, or there is a way to manually set the settings as well. And if there's anything special or any questions about it, you can reach out to us for the details on that, or check our support site for any written up tutorials about specifics on specific SIM card types for specific carriers around the world. So we're here on the menu, and I'm going to log in with the default password. The default password is capital C, lowercase h, A, N, G, E, capital M, capital E, the number 2, and the $, which is normally over the 4. Hit enter or return, and it should take you to this main menu. We are currently on version 1.0.10 for the InvisaGig software. This tutorial should apply to any version that you use, with minor changes in the structure of the menu sometimes. You might be able to put the SIM card in, power up the InvisaGig, and then it just gets connected before you can even load the user interface, which is here in the web browser at 192.168.225.1. 192.168.225.1. It's very common. A few that we've tested have done this automatically. There's no need to do anything. You're just connected online. Others require specific settings before the network will allow you to attach and transmit data. So we're going to go through those steps. We're going to need to look at and navigate to the menu that says Carrier Profile Selection and APN. If that's changed, it should still say something similar. For me today, that's option 7. Here, it'll ask you if you want to allow the modem to automatically select the carrier profile, which is the default. You don't need to do anything if you're not changing anything from auto to auto. We actually want to manually select our carrier profile, so we're going to choose option number 2. Option number 3 is if you want to return to the main menu. It's going to give you a warning. You need to read this warning and understand it before proceeding. I'm going to hit yes to proceed. And it's going to give you a list of options that you can choose for various SIM cards and configurations around the world. For my particular setup, I'm going to choose which SIM card type I'm actually using. In case the options available aren't for you, or there's an issue that requires something even more specific, you can choose option number 1, which should always be generic with manual APN. And then it's going to go ahead and set the settings and reboot. Now, anytime we're doing this, you'll notice that on my particular setup, the Ethernet connection will show that it's disconnected and reconnected. Even though the web UI says press, return, or enter to reconnect, it may not allow you to reconnect right away. So you need to look at your connection on your Mac, Windows, Linux, or mobile device to see what the Ethernet adapter is doing at the moment. And you'll notice that it actually will disconnect and reconnect a few times. Depending on your settings, this may be because it needs to reboot more than once to fully get the settings set for your connection. Once that's stabilized, then you can go ahead and refresh the browser page to re-access the menu. You'll notice on mine that while I'm talking, it just reset itself again. So we're going to wait for this to reconnect, and then we'll log back into the menu. The reconnections have seemed to have stabilized, so I'm going to go back to my browser, press return to reconnect. We're going to choose modem info from here without logging in. And you'll see that we can now reach the internet. We're connected, we're ready to go. And you'll see that this page actually shows the same information as the modem info when you're logged in, except it marks out private information like your IMEI, your SIM card number, phone number, and so forth. This is so that if anyone has access to your local network connection, so they're in your house or wherever, and they try to access the modem info and gain this information from you, it's hidden private. So the only way they can get to that, or anyone can get to that, is if they have the password to your InvisaGig, which is why it's important to set your own password for that versus using the default. You also see here that it shows the carrier that I chose for this, and this is the profile that we chose. And then it shows the APN that it loads under that profile selection. But let's suppose that you need to do a different type, a manual APN, because you've got a special situation or one of our profiles doesn't meet your needs for your SIM card. In that particular case, what you want to do is log in and go back to the carrier profile selection APN menu. You'll notice here that after we've already set something, that it shows you your current mode is manual and your current profile that you chose whenever you set this up. We're going to go ahead and go back into the manually select carrier profile menu, accept the warning. And then in this case, we're going to choose the top option that says generic with manual APN because we have a special situation that doesn't meet any of the profiles that are here, and we need to put it in. Now you'll see here that it shows IPv4, IPv6, and IPv4v6. That's called dual stack light, many other things as well, but it's a dual stack IPv4, IPv6 selection that allows your modem to use both depending on how the carrier applies it to you. Whenever you need the IPv4 only or IPv6 only is typically under certain special scenarios. If you're selecting those, you probably know that you need it, and that's for you, and you don't really need much explanation. For everyone else, IPv4 addresses are not statically publicly routable addresses on cellular devices unless you have specifically added it to your account, a paid option. You cannot get publicly statically routable addresses under normal circumstances to your SIM card. Sometimes it happens, but it's not something that's normal, and it probably won't stay there, making it not static. IPv6 addresses were created so that we had plenty of addresses for everyone everywhere, and they should be publicly routable, but the cell carriers are not doing this. They are still using CGNet and only applying a single /64 single IPv6 address to the modem, which means that it cannot be applied to all traffic on your device, and it is also behind a carrier-grade NAT, so it still is not a publicly addressable IPv6 address. And again, if you do happen to receive one, it is not permanent and it is not something that is normal. So if you need a publicly addressable or a publicly routable static IPv4 or IPv6 address, you need to have it added to your account specifically so that you can have that function to your device. The InvisaGig will automatically pass the IP address that is assigned to it, whether it be public or CGNet, to the device that it's connected to. This is automatic with the InvisaGig, something that you don't even have to set up. As long as you're using a publicly addressable APN, which is always a special APN for the public IPs, then it'll automatically do everything else. So back to here, we have the different options. We almost always use IPv4, IPv6, in our case for T-Mobile Home Internet SIM, and we're going to enter in the APN for a T-Mobile Home Internet SIM. We do have this option in our selection, but we're doing this for the example of manual APN entry. As soon as we hit enter, it's going to ask you if that is correct. Double check your spelling. We'll check yes, and it will automatically reboot. Once again, we need to make sure that we wait and give it plenty of time to fully boot up. It might reset the connection multiple times. Once it comes back, we'll look at the connection again. Now we're back to our main menu. We'll choose modem info again. And you'll see here that we're not connected to the internet. And that's because I'm still using my other SIM card for the other configuration that is not a T-Mobile Home Internet SIM. So in this case, all I need to do is swap the SIM and restart the modem. But you will see here that the profile is selected as a generic manual profile, which is exactly what we did. And here's the APN that we manually entered in. So what we're going to do is, while still powered on, remove our SIM card. And take our T-Mobile Home Internet SIM card and insert it into our InvisaGig. And then reboot our InvisaGig, which is typically the last option on the main menu after logging in. Reboot, yes, I want to reboot. And this is the only way, if you've swapped or inserted a SIM card while the InvisaGig is powered on, for the InvisaGig to see the SIM card. It cannot see the SIM card currently when live or hot swapping SIM cards. You must reboot the InvisaGig for it to read the SIM card. Now that we've given enough time to reboot and reconnect, we're actually going to log in this time, though you don't need to. And we'll look at our modem info. And you'll see that now we can connect to the internet with our T-Mobile Home Internet SIM. And it's got our manual APN entered. Everything is good to go. So now you, with your InvisaGig, are online, you're connected, you're ready to go. Your next steps are going to be to make sure that your signal strength and the signal to noise ratio or quality of that signal is at its best for your location. And then you can optimize and look at how good your speeds are using band selection and tower selection. Enjoy that super simple, crazy fast InvisaGig. Take care.